And ladies and gentlemen, we are live for another Mattriarchy, the soft A for the Mats. I am Matt Reese, coming at you from Scottsbluff, Nebraska. A beautiful, sunny, if humid day today. Coming to me from the extreme east, far into the depths of the forbidden lands. Gibson, how's it going?
Hey. I'm back again for another Mattriarchy.
Hey, indeed.
Looks I'm not going to stop with this. This is how I'm going to talk for the rest of the show.
That's funny.
It could be, but I'm
not. Pickles in the chat saying hello. So hello, Pickles.
Reese didn't want me crashing the party.
What he said? That's what he said.
He says, Reese didn't want me crashing the party, crying and then crying and laughing. Well, at least
I don't think any of those things are true, but sure. Don't crash. Come with an.
Yeah, Reese is having a bit of lag tonight, so comes out. Sprited, hey Sprite.
Sprited, hello.
Now, let's see. I probably need to start. I think it was the accidental hangout link.
Oh yeah.
Hold the phone. What's the accidental hangout?
Well, no, when I was first sharing it around Twitter, while we were waiting to see if Wes was on time. Wes, we speak of you and you appear.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Pretty good. Anyway, as I was saying, Matt, while we were waiting a little bit to go live, I accidentally shared the Hangouts link on the Twitter feed, and I had to go back and delete a bunch of tweets.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, man. I would totally take Pickles in here.
Wes, thank you for coming.
Hey, thank you for having me, man.
Absolutely. I was reading a little bit about your project on, I think it was on the oh, come on, what's that? Discord server for Drawing Board Fan Edition, and I was intrigued, and I wanted to hear more about it live. So, for coming on.
All right. Well, what Undead Row basically is if you take the zombies from 28 Days Later, with the fast-moving, just rage-filled zombies, and you put them in a claustrophobic environment like the penitentiary that they're in, and it's just between that and you have to have the prison guards and of course the inmates. They have to work together, so it portrays itself to be a very intricate, delicate line of, do the prison guards and prisoners are able to work together to get through this horrible zombie apocalypse that's befalled them in the prison.
That's so obviously, the immediate comparisons that we might head to is The Walking Dead, very popular comic series, very popular TV show. What have you got kind of that makes your world more unique, or in some cases better, would you even argue, than something like The Walking Dead or other popular zombie cultural stuff?
Oh yeah, I've heard that before. So people have asked me about that. The one thing about The Walking Dead, like I said, The Walking Dead zombies, for one thing, they are driven purely by the lust to eat human flesh. Whereas these zombies, actually in my book, I never call them zombies. In the book, in Undead Row, their code name is Rotters. What they are is they're a government experiment. They're government made. The government is trying to make the perfect soldier, even after the soldier is dead. So what they have done is they have created a serum that keeps alive the rage and the jealousy, and of course the fine motor skills, but the rage and the jealousy part of the brain. So when the Rotters are going after people, it's not because they're craving to eat flesh. They're jealous of the living flesh, and they want to destroy it any way they possibly can, whether it be ripping, tearing, biting.
Now that's actually kind of interesting. So, when it comes to zombies, and like by the way, I have some interesting stories to share about the undead and my experience with them because I used to be terrified of zombies, even though they aren't real.
Oh yeah, for sure. When I was a kid, I was terrified of them too.
It's the idea of there being like these a lot of monsters are terrifying on their own, and like the werewolf. But then the zombie, it's kind of pathetic. It's like a one man. It's a walking. It's a rotting corpse walking towards you. The scary part is when there's tons of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the real horror comes in, or when you're stuck in it, or perhaps if you're stuck in a situation where you're in close proximity with. They're not pleasant to look at, but so that's kind of something that you've done here. Is you've taken the nightmarishness of like zombie hordes, but you've also added in human ferocity.
Exactly.
A lot of places kind of leave that out. There's a lot of zombie stories. They're kind of brain dead. They've rotten away. Most of them don't even talk.
Right. Well, these zombies, they don't talk. Like I said, they are undead. When they die, they don't they don't talk. They don't take orders, but they are like just killing machines. So and then you talk about fear of zombies. The original zombies that we've seen were all those slow moving, methodical. But these will sprint. They'll jump things. They'll jump through things.
Now, when it comes to zombie stories, like, have you ever? Because like I remember somebody told me about this, and it was one of the stories that had disturbed me more. And I've never read the series. But Crossed, is Crossed something you're familiar with?
No, I've never read that one.
Yeah, that one was kind of disturbing to me because it's like not, see, you've got like just hordes of nasty zombies, but the idea there was like imagine not even zombies, but it was something imagine they get these crosses on their faces, and it basically just makes whatever subject, they act on the worst possible urges that are inside of them, which include murder, rape, anything. And it's like, and I was like, oh, that's disturbing. I'm never gonna read that. See, I'm kind of a softie when it comes to scary movies, unless it's something like Army of Darkness, where it's not meant to be taken seriously.
Right, where it's more campy, more fun.
Yeah, I've always been really into B movies, and so bad it's good, or so out there it's fun.
Right. Oh yeah, I love them too, but I love a good scare every once in a while. Gotta add that in there.
That's something I always when I was little, I used to just be so mad at the idea of horror movies. I'd see like the Terminator, and like think about the Terminator, is frightening as a concept as it is. It's that scared me a lot as a kid. Like I saw some model of like Arnold Schwarzenegger with his flesh peeling off, and to me as a kid, that was the scariest thing. And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, as a kid, that would be terrifying. You got this thing, just flesh just peeled away, and that would be it is terrifying for a kid.
Yeah, and then that was the scariest thing to me, and I remember being mad. I was like, why would people make that? That's just mean. They're doing but as you get older, you're like, oh, that's kind of fun.
Yeah, I've had that conversation with Tyler a few times with some of the scenes that I've wrote. And he's like, why did you write this like this? I was like, I don't know. It just come to me. I can't explain it. It just come to me.
Yeah. I think I've had a couple of situations like that when I'm talking to some of my friends about my story ideas. Like, I think one of them, like my friend was like, oh, how did you come up with this? And I was like, I don't exactly remember. Other than that, what were some of your biggest inspirations to tackle a story like this? Was it just this is fun, I'd love to do a story like this, or was there something specific, or what's your story?
Well, I come from the movie side of things. I was originally, schooled in making film movies, and Undead Row was a full-length feature script that I wrote. But as an independent filmmaker, you're kind of limited to things you can do in your script because of monetary reasons. So instead of me just leaving it just rot, no pun intended on the rot thing there, I decided to go with my second love, and that's comic books. And that's when I met up with, got hooked up with Tyler, and we started turning it into a graphic novel.
So is this the first comic project you've written then?
Yeah, this is the first comic project. All my other things have been, screenplays and stuff like. Well, actually, Undead Row's won a film festival for best action horror screenplay.
Cool.
Now, where are you from? What's your film scene?
Well, I'm from just north of Detroit in Michigan.
Oh, all right.
And the film scene was good here until they killed the film incentive, and then now it's kind of a barren wasteland.
You see, Scott Bruckner, a regular of the chat, and he's appeared on the show before. Back, I think when we were talking about Aquaman, that episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's also from Michigan. He actually taught me things like that. The state of Michigan is shaped like a hand.
A mitten, yep.
And I'd never heard that before. That was really fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's like most people from Michigan, they'll be like, "I'm from," and they'll point to their hand where they are, where they actually live from.
Yeah, so actually, right now, Michiganders Unite. Now let's see. Would you still be open to making a bigger, like? Have you released the original version of the film? Is it on YouTube or?
No, it never ended up being made into a film because, like I said, because of the special effects cost and all that, I knew that I couldn't really do it justice by doing it bottom dollar indie filmmaking. So that's why I turned to a graphic novel instead. Because then I had no limits. I can just let Tyler go crazy with it.
And so how long is the process been in converting the screenplay into a comic script from there?
We've been working with each other for a little over a year. Because like the first probably 3-4 months was us getting it converted from the screenplay to the comic. We broke it down for the comic part of it, and then he's been drawing on it solidly for the last year.
How long is the comic going to end up being?
It's going to be like 136 pages.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna be pretty good sized.
And correct my memory on this. The crowdfund is open for it right now, right?
Yes, yeah. Indiegogo, it's still running right now, and August 1st is the last day for that. And then we start printing, and then start running the Comic-Con gauntlet.
Yeah. So, how far are you along with funding? I suppose I can look it up here.
We're almost 50%. We're at like 47 or 48%.
Now, there's actually one thing I've learned watching these things is that everyone seems to get in at the last minute. We're like, I think one of those big crowdfunder comic guys, I can't remember which one of them specifically. It might have been Doug Tenay or it might have been Ethan Van Sciver, but they had said that most of your money when it comes to crowdfunding comes from either the beginning of the campaign or the end. Like in that final week or even a couple days or something. If you say, Doug Tenay, for example, actually went from being $200K at the middle of his project towards the end when everyone's like, this is your last chance to back Earthworm Jim, and it jumped $500,000.
Oh, I know, I've seen that. It just exploded.
Yeah.
That's actually something I'm gonna have to steal for the audience out there. I'm gonna have to steal Danielle's Sega Genesis and go find the original games. Yeah, that's something because like she was really into Sonic at the time, so I went and I bought her an original Sega Genesis.
Oh,
and
God,
she was happy about it. And as time went on, I was like, I wish that I got a Sega Genesis in retrospect. That's cool. And she was let's see, happy birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Wait, it's your birthday?
Yeah.
Pickles.
It is.
Is that a flexible goal? Yes. Is your goal flexible?
Yeah, it is flexible. And no matter what, the Undead Row is getting printed. So It's still going forward, whether I hit the goal or not.
Yeah, that's
Actually,
something I wanted to, like, eventually when I get my books, my web comics out there, I'm planning on having like a print version that's just for me, and then if the comic is successful enough, I would release it.
No, okay.
I think because a lot of it comes down to, like, this is almost more of a hobby. You know, like a lot of other people are, yeah, like this is a pipe dream of theirs. Like, this is what I want to do, and I would love to make cartoons and comics for a living, but I've got my own plan I'm on right now. So right now it's just kind of a hobby. You know, I do it when I don't have a lot going on. My goal for this year is to have the first part of it at least online to look at. And I think that's, and last year I was upset with that. Like I was like, no, I don't want to be working a normal office job. And as time went on, I was like, you know, maybe it isn't so bad. I know it's a little bit irrelevant, but just kind of sharing my experiences with creating. And how was it for you? Like, was this something that you were like, oh yeah, I'm putting all my chips on black. I'm gonna be a movie producer, or is it more of a hobby for you?
Well, no, the movie thing, even no matter what I've done, I've always had like a backup plan. Even when I was doing movies, I worked a regular day job, you know, Monday through Friday, and then I did the movies on the weekends. And then if a big budget movie come in and hired me during the week, I would just take some vacation days from work or whatever. But I've always had a backup plan where I always like to have that safety net.
That's what I think. Some people get really offended when you talk about, like, because I've talked about, yeah, my main plan is I want to be a psychologist. But
Right.
A lot of people are like, you know, like they get kind of offended at the idea of a backup plan. Like, oh, you don't have confidence in me. I'm like, no, but this is kind of a risky business, you know?
Right. I mean, for sure. I mean, it's always, I mean, I've got a wife now. I've got to make sure that I'm secure, and then I can chase my dream. But as long as I've got that safety net the whole time, well, then I can risk a little bit more too.
The way I like to say it is you work the day job so you can afford the night job.
Exactly.
So, because a lot of these things, they end up being hobbies as much as anything.
Right.
Until you get that big break, and I mean, when it comes to it for me, I'm a creator as well. If it never makes money, I can't see not doing it. You know, I mean, we've done print comics, we've done local cons, all that kind of stuff. I'm just, you know, I can't see my life that's not, you know, making superhero stories. It just doesn't see that being possible.
Right. And like, I'm not doing Undead Row hoping, this is going to make me rich. I just want to get this story out there to the people that will enjoy this type of story.
I almost think about it sometimes as the legacy, you know, like when you put things out there with your name on them, you're kind of like leaving something behind that even when you're gone, it will still be there.
For sure.
Yeah, you're kind of creating a legacy for yourself. That kind of got me thinking, you know, that has more value than money ever could.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Because, yeah, long after I'm gone, the Undead Row or any of the little movie shorts that I've done, they're still going to be out there floating around.
So some old metalhead in the chat said, I have a great job. I write for fun. I gotta agree with that. You know, if it's not fun, then what the hell are you doing?
Yeah,
right. Exactly.
That's something I said to my friend the other day is, what was it? The former president of Nintendo had said, if it's not fun, why bother? You know? And it's true, not just as video games, but if you're not happy with something, is it worth it?
Right, exactly. Why make yourself miserable if you're not, you know, happy with what you're doing?
So there's a whole discussion we had about, you know, suffering for your art, but I don't want to get into that right now. So.
Well, even having the safety net, there's still the risk. There's still suffering that goes on, even if you have that safety net.
Oh, absolutely. So what has it been like working with Tyler? I mean, he seems to be a real level-headed guy.
He is. It's been fun. I mean, him and I communicate. The main thing, like, because he's way over in Utah, and I'm here in Michigan. So the main thing for like that is just keeping the open communication. Him and I talk every week. We plan things out every week. We keep talking to each other, and that's made this last year just fly by. I can't even believe it's this close to, you know.
Utah, man, there is a lot of creative talent coming out of Utah.
Oh, I know.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know what's in the water there, but man.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with secret underpants. I don't know.
I always think that a lot of the best, there's so many people, in these the quote flyover states, that I think really the issue is that we're just not getting the attention. Like I'm from like the opposite of a flyover state. I'm from Maryland, but it's not New York, it's not California. It might as well not exist when it comes to entertainment. It's like it's you hear so many good ideas, especially just talking to people online they're also from, states that you're not thinking, oh yeah, that's where all the creative types are. But their ideas are out there and they're so fresh. Like you'd rather that they just move everything somewhere else. Or really just options. Options should be what we're aiming for. Like more stuff in the middle of the country and on the East Coast even. That isn't New York City.
And with social media, it's opened the avenue to, like you can communicate with like an artist from wherever. I know Tyler's worked with a few that don't even live in the country. I think he was talking about one time on one of his streams.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that we have too, is we're at a unique place, a meeting of things where people can share that passion for comics and stories across the globe in ways they just never had before.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the passion for comics and art, it's universal, no matter what country you're from.
So, what kind of, you said that your first love was movies, your second love was comics. Tell us a little bit about your history with comics. How did you get into it?
Well, I've been collecting comics since I was a kid. My main go-to comic book was Iron Man when I was a kid. I collected quite a few Iron Mans through the years. Of course, as I was growing up, I wish I would have kept them all that I had when I was a kid, because that would have been a hell of a collection. But I got out of it for a little while, and I just threw them in storage. And then I just you know what? I miss doing this. And then I started pulling them back out, and I started buying and selling again, and just went from there. But Iron Man's my go-to guy.
What was it about Iron Man that appealed to you?
I think it was the inner struggle that he always had. Tony Stark had that dark inner struggle. He wasn't just your typical, goody two-shoe good guy. Like the Demon in a Bottle series part when he went through the alcoholism. And I like my heroes to be a little dark on the inside, where they've got to fight that demon but still do the right thing.
Do you feel that struggle is something that is part of Undead Row?
On a few of the characters, yes. Some of the demons to some of the characters start showing their head, and because they start taking advantage of the situation they're in. So people you normally wouldn't think would be doing some of the things they're doing, you start seeing their demons take over through the book.
So is that a situation too where are you playing with the idea where some of the good people are bad on the inside and some of the bad people are better on the inside and kind of rising to the challenge versus falling? Is that something?
Yeah, there is definitely some of those twists in there where
you got an ensemble cast, right?
Oh yeah, there's I think the whole main cast is, I think, eight characters. Is so there's 3 or 4 prison or inmates. You got a couple prison guards, the warden, but you see like you said, the people that you think were horrible people, they have this moment where, well, deep down they're not quite what you thought they were.
Now, do you find balancing an ensemble cast to be a difficult challenge? Because 8's a lot of personalities to go, talking in your head.
Oh yeah, as I was writing it, it definitely was. But I also wanted to make sure that as I wrote the script, that I didn't just blow through it, and I wanted to give each character a chance to show themselves, to show their personality. So within the script, I gave these little beats. I mean, it's not long because the story is fast paced, but there's these little moments where things slow down a little bit, and you get to see why, you get to understand more of why this person is starting to react like this, why this person's doing that. But then it gets right back to the punch you in the face action. And then again, you have a moment to where you get to see all the characters act why they're acting.
Well, that's very cool. Very cool. Metalhead asks, do you have an Undead soundtrack in mind?
I have not put a soundtrack together yet, but it would be something very heavy.
Yeah. So is there a particular music you were listening to compose the story, or do you find music to get particular inspiration in writing?
Actually, when I don't really use the music when I'm writing. I try to just constantly just focus on being in the moment. I kind of take myself and put myself into the situation as I'm writing it. And if I listen to music and stuff like that, it might distract me a little bit. But that's how I write. I put myself in there, and how would I act? How would I do this? And okay, well, I would do this, but this character, I've written him like this, so I'll make it completely opposite from how I would do it. And I just adjust accordingly like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. One of the things I find really interesting about writing myself is that it's sort of like being able to act every part.
Mm-hmm.
You have to put yourself in that mind where you understand who these people are and maybe a little bit of where they came from to kind of put that together.
For sure, yeah. And that's why writing's so fun. You can live in just about any world that you want to create.
In the chat, one of our regulars, Easy Bake Coven, has arrived and said, if the soundtrack is in order, I'd be willing to offer a hand. He actually does metal reviews of metal albums. Oh,
okay. Sweet. I'll have to definitely keep that in mind.
If that's something you want to do, then he's on Twitter. I can't remember his handle on Twitter. It's not Easy Bake Coven on Twitter. It's something else. But
I'll grab it for you. It's,
but Easy Bake Coven's a sweet handle.
Yeah, I know, right?
His name, it's at easy_bake_coven. I think he spelled that with a 0 on the coven. And his name is Danny Underson, and he goes and his picture is Peter Griffin's. It's a bunch of memes. First, it's a metal cover mixed with Peter Griffin's face mixed with Sans from Undertale.
Nice.
So it's a bit of an unholy abomination, but we love him anyway.
Yeah, that's true. He is an unholy abomination, but he's a fan, so we just.
He's been a very great listener and a fun guy to talk to.
Oh, it's Anderson.
It's Anderson?
Yeah, what he says right there in the chat. Mr.
Oh, the lettering he's using like a kind of ye old font here, so it kind of looks like Anderson. Anderson's a pretty. I'm gonna tell you, man. Change your name to Anderson. That's like a real metal name.
Definitely.
Underson. Revenge.
Oh, goodness sakes.
I'll happily pick I'll happily pickle fry the zombies. It looks weird because it's in a Germanic font. He says pickles would eat. I'm willing to bet pickles would eat. Someone would say it's like, would you, if you paid $1 million, would you eat human flesh? He'd be like, well, pickled.
No, I would not.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
I don't need $1 million that bad.
No, I don't think. No.
$1 million, $1 million. No, I have heard. I remember there was Pickle says I'd do it for free.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah. By the way, really quick,
from Manchester.
Let's see. He says, "Did I ever tell you guys how I got the username?" He wants to. I don't know if he has. I'd be willing to hear that one.
I think that he mentioned it on one of our Ideal Comics streams.
Oh, okay. If it was on a different stream, then I was.
I don't think it was here. I think that was. I think he tuned into our Ideal Comics meeting one week.
I know you mentioned it, but when? Oh, he's asking really quick. Metalhead says, I know you've mentioned it, but when does the campaign end? I want to grab this. It sounds super awesome.
Well, it ends August 1st, and of course, if it's fully successfully funded, it will go through on demand in the in demand part of it as well.
Now let's go ahead and take a minute to actually look at the campaign. I will share it on my screen here, and we will walk over the thing. So, so we're at 47% of the funding goal. We've got 14 days left. Okay. And of course, there's the pitch, but for the featured thing, it's the comic plus the sketch card. Is that what
Yes.
For 20. And then, of course, you've got the PDF of the whole thing. And I got to say, $20 for anything over 100 pages is a pretty good bargain. So that's a pretty good deal. So the digital for 12 and a physical copy for 25 and physical plus poster for 30. And you guys got T-shirts as well.
Oh yeah.
35 book and a T-shirt. That's pretty cool.
Now that we're talking about pickled flesh, and Scott says it sounds like something Hannibal Lecter would have done. Hannibal Lecter could have made a good.
So the Virgin variant, is that talking about a cover without anything on it?
Yeah, that's nothing on it. It's completely just the artwork, and the artwork's done by Chris Marinan, and he's done some work. He's done some work with Wonder Woman and Wolverine and stuff like that. So he's done work with DC and Marvel.
So for 40, that's actually 2 copies?
Yeah, you'll get the original copy and the variant copy of it.
Okay.
Yep.
Pretty nice. And if you want to, your likeness in the book, 150. Now, I got to ask, is that as a zombie or as one of the survivors? How does that work out?
You'll be in one of the prison outbreak scenes. You'll be either ripped apart by one of the rotters, or you'll be a guard or a prisoner. And basically, Tyler will draw you being ripped apart by a rotter.
That's amazing. And or a private chat for 400, 200. I mean. And is that going to be? You got the digital, the physical, and the Skype chat.
Yep. Yeah, you get everything. You get everything, but of course the variant. The variant's the only one. You got to select that one to get that. So,
well, cool. And of course, here's some samples of the artwork, and I love the way he's doing the backgrounds. It's really adds that creep factor to the book a lot.
Oh yeah, it gives it the feeling of the lights are out, everything's dark, you can't see. It gives that scary claustrophobic feel to it.
Yeah. So and you guys are doing black and grayscale. Is that what
it will be black. The whole thing will be grayscale. Yep. I
think that actually works really well as an artistic choice for the subject material. It makes it stark.
Yeah, because everybody can picture their own gore. Whatever color you want to think that is dripping from a rotter. Use your own imagination.
So one of my and maybe this makes me seem like bush league whatever, but I just love Night of the Living Dead. There's just something about it that is so primal. The original, the black and white, the graininess of the film, everything.
Oh, yeah, it gives it that real gritty, dirty. Yeah,
and it feels like, I don't know if so I'm from West Nebraska, right? And it's pretty common to be stuck in the middle of the country. I shouldn't say common, but I think everyone out here has had that happen, whether it's been a flat tire or you live out there or whatever it is,
Right.
There is a stark discomfort that appears when you're out in the sticks and you don't want to be.
Oh yeah, and you'll probably hear all kinds of weird noises and everything when you're out there.
And when the moon's not out, there is no light. So that kind of on the edge of your seat kind of feeling is something that Night of the Living Dead catches perfectly. And so looking at the black and gray scale that you guys have got going on here, it's got a similar kind of visceralness.
That's what, and I appreciate that, because that's exactly what we were going for when we planned this out. That's exactly what we were going for.
Awesome. Well, good. You pulled it off.
I appreciate that.
Scott says Tyler's an amazing artist. The dude won a draw and quartered.
He is. He's been. Yeah. He has been knocking it out of the ballpark with this book. Every page he sends me is just, there's a wow factor to it for me.
Yeah. Easy Bake Comfort replies, it is good. It looks like the creepy noir-esque art that I can find in a Street Sex album. I dig it a lot. So there you go.
Well, thank you.
Chat is quite excited about the art for your project. So you've got 14 days. So hopefully enough eyeballs will take a look at that where you can get that thing fulfilled. And are you gonna, if you do get fulfilled, are you planning on keeping it open and in demand, or?
Yeah. If it reaches the goal, it will be in demand as well, and we will start fulfilling. I'm looking for September for the digital, and probably end of September, beginning of October will be when we start putting the physical copies of the books in people's hands.
Very cool. Very cool. So. Yeah,
And if anybody's in the Atlanta area, I'll be at the Walker Stalker Con in October. So
I've got a friend of mine from way back in the day that goes pretty regularly down there. He's actually from Virginia. He makes the trip down because he's a huge fan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he goes, I think every other year down to that convention.
Yeah, it sounds like it's pretty intense with the people that show up.
Yeah, that's what I hear. My guy, his name's Russ Yoakum, and he is. I met him when we were both working quote unquote for the DC fan magazine Fanzine.
Okay.
That used to be out monthly. It was just an online fanzine, and I wrote fiction and history articles for it, and he submitted pencil art for it. And our first printed anthology that we printed up in 2006 actually did the art for. He did a bunch of design work for us, but he did the artwork for the. For our universe. So, unrelated to anything, but he's a big zombie fan. So, yeah, he's a college professor now and doesn't have time to, he doesn't have time to draw because he teaches college philosophy classes now, and that's all of his time. So, which makes me sad. You know, that's cool.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So he there you go. I don't have anything else to say on this.
Does anybody else in the chat have any questions about the project or the book?
If you guys have any questions, feel free to pipe up. Of course. Are you working on? I know you're not done with this project yet, but do you have anything else like in the can?
Yeah, I've got some concepts. I got a concept for a anti-hero type. It'll be a series. It'll be a series that I'm working on. So that'll be the next project once I get Undead Row all set.
So like the story of a supervillain kind of thing, or?
No, I mean it's a female character. She is a superhero. It's just like I was saying earlier that she's got to fight her inner demons and still do everything that's right.
That's cool. Have you read? I mean, it's not quite the same Ballywick, but Annie the Cat, Mike Reynolds.
No.
It's sort of like it was made to as a. Are you familiar with his John Sable character? He was like a spy for hire kind of.
Yes, yep.
So Maggie the Cat started as a side character in the John Sable series.
Oh, okay.
Of a counterpoint to that, she was a noble woman whose like family fortune was stolen from her by shady deals, and then she goes about on a revenge quest to take down the people that have wronged her. And it's excuse me, and it's kind of a Catwoman meets an anti-James Bond kind of a feel to it.
Oh, okay. That's it. That's very interesting.
He just completed a crowdfund earlier this year to like remaster and complete the series, because when Eclipse was publishing it, like they stopped before the series was finished back in the late 80s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's on demand or what the story is or anything else like that.
Definitely have to check that out.
Yeah. It's a cool concept. I read a couple of issues out of Porter Bins and stuff back in the day, but Pickles in the chat says, "Are there any writers you look up to for inspiration?"
Well, like I said, most of my writers have been like, I'm a huge movie-wise, I'm a huge Tarantino fan. I love the way he writes his dialogue, and I try to, when I write, I try to emulate a little bit of that into my everyday writing. Just the intensity of the just simple dialogue in a Tarantino's writing style is amazing.
Yeah, Tarantino's got a really interesting body of work too, and it's actually kind of funny because the first time I saw Tarantino's stuff, I was like blown away, right? And then I started watching some older movies that I hadn't had a chance to see, and I was like, "They're ripping these guys off." Then I started watching. I decided to watch. I was starting to watch Pulp Fiction, and I decided to turn on the comedy track, and it had several, but the one I listened to, Tarantino was just going through and saying, "Okay, I took this shot from this movie. Go watch this movie. This shot from this movie. Go watch this movie." And so I realized that his whole method is evangelism for the cinema, and
Right.
so he uses all this stuff as an excuse to tell you to go watch other stuff.
I know he's like a mad scientist when it comes to making movies.
Yeah. I finally sat down a couple weeks ago and finished watching Kill Bill. I'd seen the first part when it first came out, and I'd never seen the second part, and I bought a 2-pack over Thanksgiving last year, and my wife says, "What's this about?" And I was like, okay. It was a great night. She really enjoyed it.
So anybody else have any other questions about Undead Row, or?
Well, I was just chatting real quickly with Metalhead in the chat. He mentioned that Mike Grell rocks. And I had said that Grell is the man, and a hell of a nice guy, because I've actually had a chance to meet him a couple of times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, super nice guy. And also, this is a little story. So the first time I met Mike Grell was at a comic shop signing in Cheyenne, Wyoming, right? He was there for that. And I take my boys over to meet him. I said, "Guys, this is the guy that designed that Robin Hood look to Green Arrow, and he did Warlord and all this kind of stuff." And they're like, "Wow, that's cool." And I said, "Mr. Grell, these are my sons, Donovan and Taliesin." He says, "Taliesin? Your son's name is Taliesin?" I said, "Yes." He said, "I used to have a horse named Taliesin." And I said, "Really?" So when he was doing Warlord back in the late 70s and early 80s, he was a member of a jousting club in Washington where he was living.
Oh, wow.
The horse was named Taliesin, and that horse was the horse model he used for Warlord.
Wow.
With sketches off his horse Taliesin.
Oh, my. That's cool. Oh.
So yeah, so Mike Grell's a great guy.
Definitely sounds like it.
Yeah, he's super nice. Scott Bruckner says, can we mention the fact that the dude was able to death-proof a car at a Tarantino? Not a Tarantino thing?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I didn't see that one.
Oh, Death Proof.
Yeah, didn't see it.
That's one of those twist and turn movies that you should see it. It's pretty good. It's real good.
Well, I will take that into consideration next time I'm looking for a movie. Yeah, no, I mean, like Tarantino stuff is for me at this point. It's either I either really like it or I'm sort of like on it. Like I really liked yeah. Oh come on, the Nazi one. Yeah.
Inglourious Bastards.
Inglourious Bastards. Loved Inglourious Bastards. Django Unchained was. I just didn't really. I wasn't feeling that one.
I love Django. That's one of my favorite movies of his.
I'm not sure exactly why.
The one thing he always seems to do is take them tense scenes and stretch them to where they're 10 times longer than what they would normally be in other movies. But still keeps everything going.
No, that's true, and that's actually one thing about oh come on, I was just talking about it with The Bride.
Kill Bill?
Bill, oh my God. Anyway, yeah, Kill Bill is a very good example of that, especially the first part where even when it's stretched, it keeps that tension the whole time.
Yep.
Which I looking back at it, I think that he took a lot of notes from Sergio Leone in that category. He was especially Once Upon a Time in the West. And,
oh yeah.
And Once Upon in the West and the other one I'm trying to think of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Both used that effect very well.
Oh yeah, yeah, he definitely just took that, especially the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because there's times when they're bouncing back between the shots of their eyes and the face. So it's like, wow, is this gonna?
Well, some old metalhead is signing out. So have a good night, and we will see you around the internets, man.
Take care, man.
So he does say awesome interview, Wes. So apparently he's giving you all of the credit, which is fine.
Wow, well, thank you.
Ignore me. I'm entirely full of crap.
You're only as good as your hosts.
If that were only true, our show would be enormous, but it's not. That's okay. I say my show. Matt is also here.
And he's very upset.
Dude, I'm sorry, I'm a dick. What do I say?
Don't worry about it. I'm discussing.
You can't hide what's inside, right?
Oh, that's how you understand. It's like you named your kid Tallison. For some reason, I was thinking it was spelled differently. Like I've seen that. It's like is that's spelled like that? Talisen.
What was that?
Taliesin. That's how you say it.
Yeah, Taliesin. Yeah.
What does it come? Because I'm seeing Taliesin.
Yeah, that's he missed an I in it, or an E in it. It's Taliesin. Just like that.
Tail here, so it's like tailspin, but with a couple letters switched around.
Yeah, it's Welsh. So there you go.
It's cool, is what it is.
Yeah, that's also true. Yeah, so here's the funny story. We'll bore the viewers with this little story. So I have two sons named Donovan and Taliesin, and they are 18 and 16, right? And Donovan, his name means dark-haired warrior, right? And Taliesin's, and it's from the Irish, and Taliesin's name is Welsh, and it means shining brow. Be a reference to being blonde. Okay, so my eldest was born with stark white hair. His name means dark hair. My younger boy has dark auburn hair like mine, and in his name means blonde. So that's what you get when you name your kids before they're born. Sometimes you give them the wrong name, but that's okay.
That works.
Fortunately, they only speak English, so it never comes up.
Now, how far in advance do you name your child? Is it something you, before you even meet the girl, it's just like, yeah, I want to have a kid.
I tried that. Oh yeah. So like I always wanted to be a dad. Like from the time I was like 5 years old, I knew I wanted to grow up and be a father, right? And so I had all of these ideas when I got to around the age I thought I would be to have kids. I said, okay, I want to have 4 kids, and if everything goes great, this is what I want a son, I want twin girls, I want another son, and so I had names picked out. I was going to my eldest Raymond. My father is Raymond. My best friend growing up is Raymond. My grandfather was Raymond. Perfectly reasonable. I was going to have a Raymond. Then I wanted to have Ventura. I love those names. And then I love the name Keegan. And
you had all this picked out at 5?
No.
I was going to say.
From the time I was 5, I knew I wanted kids. I started thinking at about 18.
Oh, okay.
18, 19, in that age range between those birthdays. Those were like, that's when I settled that part. So what happened is I meet this girl and she's wonderful. I'm absolutely in love with this woman. And she's not sure she wants kids, but as I get to know her, I know that she's going to be an awesome mother. And I'm like, and so we get married, and she says, I think I'm pregnant. And sure enough, I'm having a kid, yeah? And I said, okay, well, let's find out what it is, right? And the time comes for that, and they tell us I'm having a son. And I said, that's wonderful. I want to name him Raymond. And here's my reasoning, blah, 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 blah. And surely no woman can deny the importance of this name that I've picked out for my first son. And she says, no.
Wah, wah, wah.
I'm not having a Raymond. I said, if we name him Raymond, he's going to be boring.
Well, to me, that'd be the opposite. It'd be like he would be like Raven from Teen Titans.
Yeah.
He'd talk like this.
Raymond, Raymond.
Raymond? I thought you said Raven. I was like,
No.
oh, okay, so you were going with Raymond. I was like, oh, he kind of dropped that. I don't know why.
Yeah, Raymond. It's on the internet. So
Everybody loves Raymond.
So she says to me, she says, Raymond's a boring name. And I said, what do you mean? She said, your father, what does he do for a living? I said, he's an accountant. She said, that's boring. My best friend, Raymond, he's like, well, what does he do? I said, well, he's a scientist. That's boring.
Scientist is boring. Ouch.
I said, ooh. It was laboratory science at the time. So, I mean, you sit in a room and,
Right.
But anyway, I said, so there's lots of exciting Raymonds in the arts. There's Raymond Burr. And he said, well, what did he do? I said, well, he was Perry Mason, lawyer, boring.
Oh,
Listen, you got Ray Manzarek was in the Doors. She looks at me and she says, Ray Manzarek was the only boring door.
oh, ouch. Just lost. That was it.
It was over. So we spent like 3.5 months, not low-key bickering about names. One of us suggested, the other one shoots it down. The other one suggested, shot down. Back and forth for months. And Amy had suggested Donovan, and I was like, we're both long-haired, bell-bottom wearing, people. People will assume we name him after Donovan the singer, and I don't want that. And that was pretty early on. And so then, months go by and no agreement on boys' names at all. And one day I come home from work and she says, I've been thinking about this. I'm going to pitch Donovan again. And I said, fine. you know what? Let's just go with that. What do we for a middle name? Michael? I really like that. So that was it. So Donovan Michael's my oldest boy. He just turned 18. He's going to college in a couple weeks. So really well. So, and then with our second boy, Amy was she suggested Taliesin, and I'm a huge fan of Celtic legend and folklore and mythology, and so that was just a given.
Did you have to fight for that one, or was that one easy?
No, not at all. Not at all. She suggested it, and I was like, of course, that's my son. That was the one. So do you have any kids, Wes?
No, I am a stepdad, but I don't have any kids myself. I have 3 stepkids. One of them's 26, 22, and 16.
And Matt is, of course, has no kids, which is good because he's younger himself.
I'm a father of 17.
Yeah, the 16-year-old just started driving, so
Yeah, my 16-year-old is he's not quite 16 yet. He turned 16 in like 5 weeks, but he's like not comfortable driving yet. You know,
Oh, okay.
He's not chomping at the bit to get that car. He's kind of dreading the fact we're going to make him take the test in a few weeks.
Oh, now see, my stepdaughter, she'd been wanting to chomping at the bit for the chance to drive.
Yeah, my boys both they're very aware of how dangerous it is, and it's a lot of responsibility, Dad. I'm only 15.
Well, I mean, that's good that they're cautious about it. They're not just getting in the car and driving 100 miles an hour like some of these kids you see.
Well, and my oldest, Donovan, he's been driving a couple of years. He's actually a better driver than I am. So I often will just hand him the keys when we're going somewhere.
Well, yeah, that's a good reason to have the kids. Have them chauffeur you around. And I mean, growing up,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I thought the only reason my parents had me was to be the remote control to change the channels on the TV when I was growing up.
But we don't have that. That's not even so much an issue anymore unless I move.
Not anymore. That's back in the day, though.
Yeah. Well, and actually, it's we got to think of it too. The boy's 18. He's not going to be around much longer. So I
right.
Every minute I.
There you go.
Oh, just like if he ever gives me guff, I'm just like, dude, you've been living in my house 18 years. That's free. Look at this gray. You think this? Oh. Yeah. So, that's the thing. So back to the comic. Away from all of my weird dad stories.
Enough dad talk. Back to the comics.
They never know what they're going to get. Am I going to go on a rant about politics or history? Am I going to talk about tornadoes? Show I spent 10 minutes talking about tornadoes, so that was exciting.
Tornadoes or sharknadoes?
Regular tornadoes.
Okay.
So, I don't know. Do you guys get tornadoes there in Michigan at all?
Yeah, we get tornadoes around here. Yeah, I mean not quite like Tornado Alley does, but we do get random ones here and there.
Out here in Nebraska, I'm in the West, and they're not super common, but they're not rare either, right?
Right.
So we'll get usually within the general vicinity 5 or 6. Touchdown in a year, and usually it's in the middle of a field and it doesn't really cause a lot. We're not densely populated. So.
Yeah, we're lucky if we 3 touchdown a year here, and when they do it, it's huge news and it's everywhere. And
yeah, we'll still. I mean, when one's coming, people stand on their front porches out here and watch it. So that's Nebraska for you.
It's entertainment.
I'm not sure if it's oldness or idiocy, but it's somewhere in that. But yeah, and it's interesting because there's not a lot of places in the world where tornadoes can form, just because of the conditions it takes.
Right.
It's got to have, you know, the right mix of hot and cold, and it's got to have enough flat land. So it's like here in America and Spain, because pretty much everywhere else that has the big flats are either too cold or too hot.
Right.
Africa can't get them, Siberia can't get them, but here in Spain you can get them. And so yeah, I've just repeated myself for the long-time viewer. There you go. So you never know what you're going to get when you tune into the Mattriarchy, but it'll probably be nonsense. With your cast, you went through the process of picking criminals and guards and that. Were you looking for specific character archetypes, or did you have like?
Yeah, I wanted like the on both ends of the spectrum. I wanted the really good guard, and I wanted the most hardened criminal I can think of that had been locked, like a career, basically a career criminal that he's in there, and I wanted to get them trying to work together. I wanted to get that that whole dynamic of how they could coexist to cooperate with each other to get the hell out of this just madness that's going on around them.
So with this being a government experiment, right? Is the scope of the outbreak very limited? It's just the penitentiary, or is it beyond that?
It's just in the penitentiary right now. What basically that boiled down to is this was going to be the test of the serum, and they thought it would be a perfectly contained test. One of the inmates in there, he's given the choice to test this serum, and they'll commune his death sentence. So of course he agrees. He's like, hey, I'm going to get out. Yeah, give me whatever you're going to give me. But it comes around, there's a twist there, and well, he ends up getting, sent to the electric chair anyways. And where it's supposed to be this small contained area, they're thinking it's just going to be the execution room that the test is going to be in. Well, circumstances happen, and somehow it spills out into the general population and goes from there.
Wow. So, I guess one of the things I find, and I'm not sure if, because I keep thinking like bigger world stuff, right? Like, somebody's got to be held accountable for that kind of nonsense.
Oh, for sure. And I left Undead Row at the very end of Undead Row. I wrapped up the story in the one book, but I left just enough breadcrumbs that I could continue at one more book if if the fans actually wanted the story to continue. I can continue the story probably one more good book, and then conclude it without turning it into worldwide apocalypse type deal.
Right. I actually like that idea too, because it gets to a little point where I think a lot in the zombie subgroup, right? The idea of the worldwide aspect of it all it sometimes is too tempting for a writer to keep it out, but you end up playing those tropes out, to the point where they stop meaning quite so much.
Oh, for sure. And like I said, I wanted to avoid that because the whole worldwide apocalypse zombie thing has been done quite a bit. So I wanted to just keep it contained, keep it small, and to a group of people, and see how they reacted to that in their small contained world.
Sorry. In the chat, Matt just put the average Catholic household is having 9.9 million kids. Not sure where that came from.
That's because we're talking about, for context, it's Pickle says, having kids at 14 is common where I'm from. I said, the frick. He said, it's very messed up. Scott says, that's the average Catholic household. And I was like, no, the average Catholic household is having, and I just threw my fingers all across the number bar, and I was just like, 9, 8, 7, 9, 5, 6, 8 kids.
There we go. That makes sense. What on earth is even happening?
Yeah, you let Catholics have children once in this little country.
Matt is Catholic, so that's what he feels free to
Yeah,
make. I should point that out.
Even in
I
my
feel with Boston, it would be bad form for me to say something like that.
everybody has a massive family.
I am trying to think here. Is when you were coming up with like characters, did you take any part in the character design process, or was that just Tyler's thing altogether?
No, we discussed it. We talked about it before. What I basically told him is, you know, these are the people that I would have cast if I wrote, you know, a movie. If I shot the movie for it, these are the characters that I would think would play these certain roles. And I was like, let's try to keep that look to it. So we come up with, you know, the concept design for the characters' look, and of course, you know, without stealing people's real identity, you know, and everything. We just stayed along those lines type deal.
So have you been on any other streams or shows talking about the project?
Yeah, I was on 656 Comics. We did that. Of course, I've been on Draw and Talk. But I got another one coming up Saturday. I think I'll be on again.
Cool. All right, what kind of response are you getting from people on it?
Oh, I'm very positive once I'm able to get on. The only thing, you know, for me, it's been hard to get on because I work afternoons most nights. So just like happened tonight that it's my birthday, so I took the day off. So when you said, hey, you want to come on? I'm like, I'm on.
Oh, it works out for us that way. And we really have a, let's see, I got a cough.
Okay.
That's super professional.
That looked painful.
It didn't hurt. It just took a lot of effort.
Okay.
I've got quad seasonal allergies, so
Ooh.
yeah, it's real fun.
Oh yeah. I hear about the allergies from the wife all the time. She suffers from them too. So.
So with well, you said you're working on a hero story.
Yes.
Is your project. Do you have any kind of like shared universe elements between Undead Row and the hero story, or are they?
No, this will be a complete separate universe for her.
I'm a big fan of world building, and not that everybody has to go do that. We've had Jeremy Lott on who did the Movie Men, and he does not like restriction of shared universe at all. And so he's got about 20 projects lined out that he wants to work on, and none of them have common elements on purpose.
Oh wow!
Which is fine.
Right.
But with mine, that we do with I'm a part of a little company called Ideal Comics, and there's 4 partners, and we make no money off of it, but we're hoping to. And with that, everything we do is part of a connected universe. So we do like for a comedy webcomic that's called Forces of Good and Evil.
Okay.
And it's a teenage dramedy featuring kids in superhero and supervillain high school. And it's almost entirely played for laughs except for the teen angst stuff. And that one, it takes place in the same universe. It's like right now we're crowdfunding a project called Tales of Shadow VOX Populi, and it's like a murder mystery plus monsters, and that takes place in the same universe as our silly teenage stories, but they're just different lenses.
You said you're crowdfunding that now?
Yep.
Send me the link to it. Send me the
I
link.
will do that. In fact, I am going to go ahead and copy it and put it in the chat so everybody can see it. Because I can do that. It's my channel.
There you go. Your channel, your rules.
Absolutely.
Another project that I'm working on, it'll probably come after I do my superhero, will be along the Michigan Dogman folklore. I've got a story that's already wrote out. It's basically already scripted. It's already got the graphic novel script done. but I just haven't found the right artist yet for the style that would fit the story. So that'll be another thing that I'll be putting out there.
Well, that's cool. Now, I don't know a lot about the Michigan Dogman. I love local folklore, right? And that's one of the things that a lot of times I'll borrow a little bit here and there as I'm developing characters within our universe. I mean, one of the things about ours is like it's a whole alternate timeline. It goes like back basically to the dawn of time, and then it changes little things around there. World history is not significantly changed until the emergence of superheroes in the early 20th century. But then other than that, like, I mean, you know, like the wars pretty much happened the same way and everything else, except for World War II, because interrupted it, you know? And so at that point, things change drastically.
With the Michigan Dogman, I took like the concept of, I didn't follow the folklore, you know, exactly. I just basically took the concept of it, and then I, of course, twisted it and made it horrible.
So, now what is the story of Michigan Dogman? So it's like I don't completely.
Well, it's an old. It goes back to an old Indian legend about this wolf man. He's full wolf, and people see him nowadays. You know, they say the folklore on a certain time that people have spotted him. You know, I don't think anybody's been attacked by him. It's been more they've spotted him type deal.
Is it kind of like a Sasquatch kind of a thing?
Oh, what was that?
Is it sort of like a Sasquatch kind of a thing? Like
Yeah, kind of like a Bigfoot thing, but a wolf. That no one really knows what it is. It's just some Native Americans have folklores about these shapeshifters that would take the wolf form and things like that. And then people, of course, have spun it now to where everybody sees them and everything like that. So I took that and put it into a horror script.
Yeah, that sounds kind of cool.
It's definitely cool.
Yeah. And so, of course, do you have any kind of timeline on when you think about working on that stuff? Is it like
it'll be next year in 2020. I'll probably start, kicking those out. The superhero, her name's Lilith. It's the name of the book. Will be Lilith. She'll be out probably start like mid 2020 is when I'll probably hit that on the crowdfunding scene.
Have you talked to any artists about working on that yet, or?
A couple of artists. I haven't really flushed complete scripts out yet, so I don't want to get somebody on board and say yeah, and then me change my mind on it.
Right.
So I want to get the first script. The first three. I want to write the first three books first, and then I'll really start concentrating on getting the artist.
So, are you wanting to do like a long form series or a mini series or?
Well, I mean, it'll be a mini series. It'll probably be 6 to 8. It'll probably be 6 to 8 episodes, and then of course, if people want to see more of Lilith, then of course with being a superhero, I'll be able to put her in new situations, and who knows where it'll go.
Which is cool.
Yeah,
of course, like I said, superheroes are my bread and butter. I mean, we have in our universe, we have like horror elements and science fiction elements and mythology elements, all that kind of stuff. But it's a superhero universe. All that stuff is there to reinforce superhero mythos.
All right, and with like what I would write, of course, like I said earlier, like my superheroes have got to kind of have a dark side to them that they have to fight to still do everything good, but there's still that little devil sitting on the shoulder trying to get them to do the bad thing,
Yeah, that flawed hero idea.
Yep, I love the flawed hero.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of room for that. I think one thing is, and I like the idea of the flawed hero, and I think it can be executed well. But what I really like, it sometimes I feel is over applied in the cases where it doesn't belong.
Yeah, you're right.
Like like Batman, like he's like the way he's been written the last several years. He's too flawed, right? And I would think if I was writing Batman, right, his flaw would be his refusal to kill people, right? That would be like his one like moral weakness.
I mean, truthfully, nowadays would be a major flaw. I mean,
Yeah. And I mean like that's a personal fault issue, but and it could be addressed as that in a sensitive way. But I don't like the way Tom King's written, you know, Batman's quest to be happy. Just like
we don't need a happy Batman.
a happy Batman. Batman wouldn't care about being happy, right?
Right.
Like you know, when I started reading comics when Tim Drake became Robin, right? That was the time I started reading comics. So when getting the back issues, and I read like The Lonely Place of Dying, and Batwing returns to the mansion and looks at all the photos of him and Bruce doing son and father things, and
right,
happy together. And I'm like, okay, so Batman is happy with his kids. He takes the time to recognize that. I can accept that, Batman has this quiet satisfaction when, Dick does something really good, and that's a good feeling.
Right.
But he never has to talk about it or express it to anyone or be concerned. It's secondary to the rest of his life. And I think that's a perfectly legitimate way to write Batman. Apparently, Tom King would disagree with me.
Obviously.
So, but at the same time, you look at about flawed characters. Tony Stark's a great one. Well, watching, I was, back in that same time frame, about the time that Mark Waid took over writing Wally West. He was a horribly flawed person with tons of baggage, and during the course of Wade's run, saw him grow up and deal with his baggage, become his own man, and get some confidence in him, and the whole thing. So seeing him be flawed and growing past those flaws was part of the joy of the journey.
Oh yeah. I immensely enjoyed the Demon in the Bottle for Iron Man. That really, like I said, that really started me on the flawed hero love back then.
I'm trying to remember who did the writing on that. Is that Stern, Roger Stern?
I am drawing a blank. I am totally just having a brain meltdown about who wrote that.
I could Google it, but it always feels more satisfying when you remember.
I know. Google is taking that away from us, though. It's much easier just to Google it when you're having that brain moment.
That's true. That's true. It's a little weird when you're live on video because then everybody gets to watch you type.
Like, oh yeah, he's Googling it. He doesn't know.
What is cool is when you're sitting there. Oh, I knew I could remember.
For sure.
Pickles says Bruce Banner is flawed and troubled. It's true.
Oh yeah, very true.
And actually, you may not know this, Pickles. People don't realize this or notice it, but pretty much for the piece, the Hulk was intended to be a takeoff of the Jekyll and Hyde story, and to take those horror elements that Stevenson had introduced, the psychological horror of the human frailty of the human soul, and put that into the context of the superhero comic. It is, in fact, about flaws and foibles. That's the entire. Personally, I don't like Hulk stories too much because I relate too much to Bruce Banner.
Oh, okay.
I am a person who by his nature is wrathful, is always angry, and reminded of my mortal sin by when I read comics.
Oh.
Well, Reese, just remember, it could always be worse. You could have been an anime fan.
What?
If you don't know why that's bad, then you're lucky.
No, I didn't make it. I didn't sat the thing cut out. The signal.
Oh, I said it could have been worse. You could have been an anime fan.
Been an anime fan? Well, that's true.
I do. Pickle says it right here. I do love the Jekyll and Hyde dynamic, and I think from the early examples, I think that's actually something Stan Lee said was a big point of inspiration with the Hulk, alongside Frankenstein.
Yep. Yeah. Which, then again, which is actually also interesting because that is also was it pulled out of those traditions, and then Alan Moore in The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen pumped those ideas back into Hyde, Mr. Hyde, that he wrote. So that's interesting. But, although I wouldn't necessarily recommend Extraordinary Gentlemen because the first 2 volumes are excellent. They're also very adult, and it can break your soul. So,
Wow. Okay.
there's lots of adult content, and as only Alan Moore can present. So, some of our viewers are occasionally younger and aren't corrupted and jaded yet, and I don't want people rushing into that.
You don't want to break our soul right away.
Yeah. It's something that you can do when you get to your mid-20s and you watch Speed.
Right. Well, yeah, because then you could jade the soul. Then when you're in your 20s, go ahead.
It's a little bit, Jekyll and Hyde is interesting when you have something like Bruce, Hulk, and Clue. I don't recognize that. What is that, Scott?
Claw is an ultra powerful form of the Hulk.
Oh, it's Hulk backwards. I just saw that.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Hulk going Hulk, is how I remember it explained. Yeah, there it is. Claw is the Hulk's Hulk.
Hulk's Hulk.
Oh, wow.
So
That's a concept in itself.
Yeah, that is. Scott says it's like having the good, the bad, and the ugly all in one person.
No kidding.
Wow.
Wow. Okay, Hulk. Banner turns into Hulk by being mad. What causes the Hulk to turn into its Hulk?
According to Pickles, it's getting sad. The Hulk becoming sad.
Oh, okay.
So in other words, it would be kind of like depression.
Wow.
I think I'd kind of like it more if it was a Super Saiyan type of thing where you just go beyond, you go further, so it's like you get angrier. Well, Hulk already has that anger.
One of the things about anger is a lot of times anger is actually a secondary emotion. It's something we feel because we're feeling something else, and don't have the vocabulary or wherewithal or capacity for dealing with it. So you get angry. And that's especially, it's not always true, but that's especially true with like children, especially pre-verbal children. A lot of them.
Oh yeah, they see something, they don't understand it, they approach it right away with anger.
Yeah, and especially like the terrible twos.
Oh God.
Kids have all of these complex feelings and no way to explain them because they can't speak. Like, and so that's one thing that with my boys, one of the interesting, another dad story was my older son went through a time period where he was mimicking speech patterns and he believed he was speaking, and he would speak in like sentence long like nonsense, but he would be da 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 da, and he'd find the cadence of speech, and he'd get really, really angry when nobody would understand him, right? And he was 18 months old.
Oh wow.
When he was doing this. And so, we helped him talk through all of that and, let him know that we don't understand him, but we love him anyway and all that kind of stuff. But he had some anger problems at that point. But when my second son was that same age and Donovan was about 4, we didn't have that problem with Taliesin because Donovan had learned enough of Tali's nonsense to translate. And so Donovan would translate for his little brother, and then we would, get Tali what he was asking for or understand whatever because they had this understanding between them that was like.
That's actually amazing that they
could do that. And it's actually so that's one of those things. It's not I had never seen anything like that because I was the oldest And when my siblings were there, I wasn't old enough to remember anything. I don't know if that happened.
Right.
Yeah, that's not uncommon in siblings that are that close in age, where the younger sibling won't deal in the same way or won't have some of the same struggles because their older sibling is playing interference if the kids get along well.
Oh, wow.
That cooperative learning is part of it.
Now, have your boys grown up close
Yeah.
because of that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a weird trait in my family history, like for generations, where Reese boys are either best friends or worst of enemies at the same time. And so we've done a lot of parenting specifically here that, you don't get to punch your brother, you don't get to stay angry with your brother, you don't get to be unreasonable with your brother. And so that they learn to deal with things, with that level of self-control rather than just reacting.
Well, that's good.
They've had some knockdown dragouts, but they both
Of course. I mean, most brother siblings probably have through the years.
So they're pretty close because of that. And one of the interesting things too is that they're very close to the same size. Tolly was much larger when he was born, and he grew faster. So they've been mistaken for twins often, even though they're apart. So, and Tolly will be a larger person when he's done growing than his brother too. He'll pass him up already. He's not yet. He's about 4 inches shorter right now, but he won't stay that way.
Nah, he'll hit his growth spurt and shoot right past him.
Oh yeah. So yeah, more dad stories.
Here we go with the dad stories again.
There's more dad story night. So, Pickles was talking about the claw, whatever it is, the Sad Hulk. He said he punched Nova all the way to Paris.
Yeah, he was talking about that was an Axis.
Yeah.
I barely remember Axis. Like, I don't think I ever read the whole thing. I just kind of got the skinny from somebody else.
I don't think I was even aware of it. Was it like a crossover story or?
It was a big event story. It was 2013 or somewhere around there. It was Irredeemable Iron Man.
Actually, I don't. I was not. That was a time period where I wasn't buying comics. I'm mostly a DC guy, and the New 52 it made me so angry I just signed out.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't want to get into all of that, but
Right.
I was just over. I was like, that's it. I spent my lifetime studying these characters, and there was nothing wrong with the way it was being done, and I just noped out. And I still bought comics, but it was all like back issues and stuff. And so I didn't really buy anything new for probably 4 years.
Oh, wow.
I kind of came back with Rebirth and started dipping my toe into some Marvel stuff that Mark Waid, when he started writing Captain America again, like the first 3 issues were perfect, and then just went straight down.
He contained himself. It was like a kid holding it in on the drive home. Equal to piss. So
yeah, Marvel hasn't really respected Captain America since Civil War. That's just the bottom line.
Well, actually, I will say, have you ever read Brubaker's run on Captain America? Like, did that end with Civil War? I think he did a little after.
Okay, so and that's part of the caveat, right? So Brubaker started before Civil War, and then Civil War killed Cap, right? Brubaker continued to write Captain America as Bucky, right? And then they brought Steve back. Brubaker wrote him in Secret Avengers, and it was okay, but it still wasn't quite Cap because you know what I mean? Right. So Brubaker did good with what he did, but when he left the series and he just does indie stuff now, then it's just been, all bets were off at that point. So.
Operation Breast Monkey was going to be one of the largest missions that we
Oh, Scott in the chat says DC always had that sense of it's time to reset. That way we can lower the bar again. I wouldn't say always. Scott, that's been your experience because you're so young, and I don't mean to be rude. It's not like, but as a 40-year-old, I'm telling you, like that's not how DC operated really for most of its history.
And hey, I mean, if you count Rebirth for the first year or two, Rebirth was really, really good. And then getting rid of Johns as their creative director, because I think Johns was a good editor, like especially after he messed up with New 52, but he was a good creative director for Rebirth's first 2 years. And then when he dropped out, and apparently he went to go work on Justice League and Shazam and stuff like that, and he really didn't help a whole lot because I mean Justice League was just kind of a movie you couldn't save the whole project. It was such a disaster in terms of and I say as someone that liked the movie, I'm talking about the production of the movie was such a disaster.
Yeah,
and then
it's a mixed bag too, but I don't want to get into all of that right there. Talk the point about relaunching. There were a few continuity changing events between the Crisis and the New 52, but they were all very minor, like, and it essentially kept the continuity intact for the 89 to 2011. What is that? Or 86 to 2011. 30 years. And most of, and even with the Crisis, most of the pre-Crisis stuff was canon in one way or another. So, with the exception of like Batman and Superman. But so that was one of those things where it wasn't that there was always the sense of being able to restart the universe. It was really that, especially during the late 90s and early 2000s, DC Memorial and a lot of the writers had so much respect for the writers of them. They were crafting a universe that had sustaining power, and that whittled away in the early 2000s for stuff that I don't want to get huge into, but that's for me one of the things that makes it so tragic is that a lot of the individual books were written in a way that would tell a continuing ongoing story that had some weight to it and some meaning. And so that's my little soapbox. Yeah, I'm a big DC fan, or at least I was. I just recently read, totally off the subject of everything. I've recently read the 49th issue of Aquaman by Sudaconic, and that was terrible. Oh my God. So anyway, the DC just canceled Silencer. Let's Sudaconic wreck Aquaman. I'm not quite happy with them right now.
There's a lot of the DC and Marvel that the story I used to love, and just nowadays is just yeah.
Well, I actually think that part of the reason the trouble they run into is that they tell all of their stories now, right? So for comics to function, one of the things Stan Lee understood is that you have to have the illusion of change, right? Where things feel like they're changing, but the status quo doesn't actually change. That's why you can, if you miss an issue, you can pick up where you left off. You could buy a Spider-Man book from your kid and be able to clue him in on what he doesn't know, and you can read it because you can't change tremendously, or you lose that audience, right? But as storytelling in comic books got more complex, and as that third generation of comic readers aged and never gave their books up, right? The need to tell these more involved, more complex stories, they started tying history into it, and you had these huge backlogs of story. Like, for example, in Marvels, Alex Ross and Kurt Busiek's Marvels, they're telling the story that takes place over 50 years of time, right? And I don't know if you've read that one or not, but it's amazing. Yeah, it's all painted. Alex, and it's a 4-volume set that tells years of these Marvel Comics history.
Oh, okay.
Just and it was for the time it was written, it places all of Marvel history along the timeline that matches up with real world events. So it's really interesting.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Excellent stuff. And it was kind of before Buziak went crazy. So I think that was maybe a little too much editorializing there. But one of the things they have, though, is that because comic stories take a while to tell, and because time keeps rolling on, right? And they start incorporating all this history and lore into it. Suddenly, right? They start, running out of stories, right? So, like, there's no reason Peter Parker shouldn't be married with kids at this point, right?
Right, yeah.
There's no reason that Tony Stark shouldn't have died from being old and in an Iron Man suit, right?
Right.
There's no reason for these things not to have moved on because life moves on. But you have this need to keep storytelling in the now, right? And so what you end up with is either you have to ignore events to make them match, like Punisher can't be a Vietnam vet, if he's still in shape to be, killing criminals today because the war was 40 years ago, right? So, he can't have been 20, 40 years ago, or he'd be 60, right?
Right.
You have to stretch it out. You have to change things. Oh, suddenly, he was in Spec Ops in the 80s. No, he fought in Desert Storm. No, and they have to change things on this rotating timeline. So they end up finding a need to regress characters or play through old scenarios again because they don't have the way to extend that. And the way they have to tell stories now with their big properties, right? And replacement doesn't tend to work really well for the bottom line. That's one of the things too, though, that with our comic universe, where we've tried to head that off of the pass, is where we tell everything along a fixed timeline, right? So even though, like, we started our webcomic, we started that on the internet in 2006, right? And we're right now, we just changed hosts. So we're actually republishing storylines. And every Friday, we're dropping a new storyline. So people that have come along recently and been interested in the book can go back and read the stories as they come out. Which is it's an experiment. We're going to see if it works.
Right.
But that, like, the first strip starts in 2004 in October, right? So, and even with all like 500 pages that we have of it, right, we're still only up to August of 2006 or 2005.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you got a long way to go.
We've got a long way to go, and we're not like that storyline is never going to catch up to the modern day because it's a story of these guys' last 2 years in high school. So when we get to the sorry, I lost track of myself for a second. So when we finish the story, it's going to finish in May of 2006 when they graduate, and that's the end of Forces of Good and Evil. It's a fixed story,
Right.
into our timeline, right? So, and then those characters, we'll see them again in other stories or whatever else. And when that happens, it'll just fill into that overall timeline. So, you could never read our universe chronologically because we're going to be filling in gaps in the story until we're dead,
Right.
or whatever it is. But it is part of one big story, and we're actually, a lot of the events we're telling are actually leading up to a penultimate moment, right? Moment before that. Well, it's not the last. There's a big climax.
Big climax, yeah. I gotcha.
So, but yeah, so in a way that, like, Marvel and DC find their need to reinvent themselves to make themselves relevant in our universe, because it's a fixed timeline, we're just telling yesterday's stories, and hopefully we get the stories done before they seem too far out there. But it's an alternate timeline anyway, so not like we deal with modern day politics. I mean, there's some crossover between real world politics and our politics. FDR was still president during World War II, but World War II ended in 44, so right in late 43. So it's a different, you know.
Right, right. Well,
So,
you're right, man. You're making the rules for the world, so.
yeah, it's our rules. Easy Bit Coven took off, I guess, and he returned to say he was giving Metalhead a few submissions for the metal band bracket he's making on Twitter. Oh, I didn't know that was going on. Scott had earlier said, I know I'm inexperienced on the pass at DC back when they had a good logo for more than 6 seconds. In its current state, I wish there could be a way to climb the power ladder more slowly. I honestly, and this is dreaming. I don't think it'll ever happen, but if they had just like picked up where they left off in 2011 and told those stories, I think that would be a path forward. But the biggest problem, I'm going to rant on this just real briefly, because I just can't let it go, apparently. Yeah, the DC universe started dying the very minute they started introducing stuff from Kingdom Come into the main universe. And the reason for that is that Kingdom Come by Wade and Ross is a fun story. It's got some pathos in and of itself, but it's dependent upon a pre-existent awful, right? It requires the heroes of the of the 90s, the DC universe as it was in 96. It requires them to be failures. And so when they started incorporating those elements, they started building a universe pointed toward failure. And every event that they went through was so taxing and so terrible, and so many good characters were killed, that they ended up needing to find a fresh start because they killed hope, because they had been building a universe built for destruction. And that wasn't in all books, but that was the push of so many of them. At that point, it was moving toward that because they had allowed that infection of Kingdom Come into the universe. But some people have heard me go off on that before, because I had Hope Fire on a while back ago, and she loves Kingdom Come. She said she's bought and read through to Ruination 8 copies. So
Wow.
so she's read them until they're falling apart, and it was time to get a new one. I think some of them were I think she bought the hardcover when it was released. So that too. But yeah, so we had a really good conversation about Kingdom Come. I've gone on about that before. Yeah, I spent a lot of time thinking about world building. So, and that if you're liking that kind of thing, you might want to follow our comic. Funding now on Indiegogo. Yeah. The one we're doing, like I said before, it's about a murder mystery plus monsters, but the premise is that there's an outlaw street detective named the Expositioner, and he's on the run from the law. He's framed for a crime he didn't commit, but he's so dedicated to this concept of being a superhero, helping people solve their problems, that he's still out there hunting down criminals and the whole thing while he's on the run from the cops. And he's investigating a series of missing persons, and discovers that there's a conspiracy about these monsters to destroy the town. And this mad scientist is so. We've really tried to get
mutant type what kind of monsters are they? Are they mutant type monsters, or are they the classic monsters?
They're kind of mutant type monsters. They're man-made. They're not giant kaiju or anything. They're like 12, 15 feet kind of thing. And they are the product of this mad scientist tinkering in the God's domain, so to speak. And the nature of them is actually to be revealed in issue 2.
Ooh.
We've really tried. One of the things I was very pleased with is that we are working on realistic investigative work. I love police procedurals, a marriage of the superhero and a little bit of that monster kind of story with procedural and set within a universe where aliens invaded in the 60s. So advanced tech is there and powered beings are there and all that kind of stuff. But so some of the tools are on the edge of what science does, but it's still within that. Not much more much more science fiction than a Batman story, right?
Okay.
So that's kind of what we're going with. Like one of the examples is that like nuclear fission is not an unheard of thing in our universe. There are flying cars, but not everybody has a flying car. One of the funnest things is actually Expositioner's costume, designed to be like a next-gen street, like urban camouflage. So the jacket itself is convertible to be like a bomber jacket, or it can fold out to be like a long trench coat. It has some color changeability. His bodysuit's smart fabric, so it can be more flexible, or it can harden up in certain points to be body armor.
Okay.
So like that's part of it. That's not the big theme in the story, but that's some of the science
Some
fiction.
little nuances within the yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we're very excited about it. We're funding actually. We end a day before you do.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So we're one of the things too is we're flexible as well. So if we get over that $500 mark, where we actually get to keep any of the money, we're definitely going to print, even if we don't meet the goal.
Okay.
Everybody
Yeah,
who works.
I'm in the same boat. No matter what happens, I'm printing. It's going to print. Well, like I said, I'm already booked at Walker Stalker Con, so
Yeah, you got it.
I'm going there.
Where we're at with it is if we make over that, they won't. You don't get any money until it's at 500, and that's that bottom line that Indiegogo has.
Right.
We're at 300. We're just under 300 right now with 2 weeks. So I need to get on some more shows and pitch.
I'll be definitely getting out there sharing it. You sold me. I'm going to support it.
Well, thank you. That's great. I'm glad to hear that. So, but yeah. Well, it's almost 8. Actually 9. Where am I at? Black. Honestly, Scott, I heard that. I don't know what it is.
Blue Black is, if I'm not mistaken, that's the stuff from a Dr. Seuss story.
Is that sounds like
Yeah, Bartholomew and the Black.
the idea of a smart fabric convertible suit was, I think, it was something that I actually came up with because I was wanting to find some way. The whole purpose of his design was we wanted something that a person could disappear into a crowd, and where it could be something that he's running from the police or he's running from someone, and then he gets into a urban area and it's just another guy in a suit. But we didn't want it to look something that was too much like The Question or something that was just plain clothes, but had more of that obvious superhero look to it too. And once I explained that was what I wanted, we started throwing ideas around, and cornstarch and water. Yeah, the non-Newtonian liquid. Yes. Okay. Right. It's strictly speaking of that, but yeah, I can see where you're coming from with it. So that was that when Barry and I were workshopping the redesign of the character just kind of came out from that conversation. So yeah, there you have it. And I'm sure it was probably partially informed by Batman's cape in Batman Begins.
Okay.
I didn't intentionally do that, but that probably was in the back of my head now thinking about it. There you have it. Thank you, Christopher Nolan. Well, it is 8. No, I keep saying that. It's almost 9, which means it's about time to wrap up.
It's 11 here.
Oh, yeah, of course. So before we go, Wes, give us a last pitch for anybody who may have come in late, because I think we have had some changing in that. Yours is.
All right, so Undead Row, if you love action-packed stories, if you love zombies, you're gonna love this. There's a new twist on zombies in Undead Row. It's not your typical go-around, mind-numbing, I want to eat flesh zombies. They're fast-moving, angry things that only want to destroy human flesh. They're government created. They were trying to create the most super soldier even after death. So they tried to test it in what they thought was be a controlled environment in the penitentiary. Well, it was controlled up until the point that it leaked out into the general population, and mass chaos and just death and dismemberment start. Our group of heroes band together. They're from both sides of the law. They have to find their way to work together, work through their differences, and try to survive a nightmare zombie apocalypse within the penitentiary.
Awesome. And both of these projects we've talked about in the last bit are funding on Indiegogo through the end of the month. So if you guys can put that some nickels on the barrelhead, and I know that Wes would appreciate it. His book has got great art, got a wonderful concept, and I'm really looking forward to hearing about that. And if it makes the funding goal, I tapped out this month, man. I'm sorry, personally. So I just got to get front with it. But of course, you guys are going to be printing extra copies. So.
Oh yeah, because like I said, I'm going to have copies to go to the Comic Cons and stuff like that. So everything that comes from Indiegogo is just to offset the printing cost, because it's going to get printed.
Awesome. Well, then I will definitely have to give you guys a call in August.
Sounds good, man.
That's the way it goes. But if you guys out there can help out with that printing cost, that would be awesome. And the links are in the chat. They'll be in the description. They're not right now, but I'm going to fix that. And thanks for tuning in to the Mattriarchy. Matt, do you have anything to say before we go?
You're a little baby, but it ain't no that. Bye, bye, bye.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you guys next week with new guests and something. I don't know.
But you be there too.